only differ in terms of the shapes of our nose as well as the color and the hair. But if you look inside, there is no organ that another person has that you don't have. So we are belonging to a common race. We also belong to a common ancestry, because before human beings interfered with nature, we all emerged from one common ancestry. So if we trace back the origins of man, we will basically be proven correct that we are all originally from Africa, and science has proven that in many instances. So whether you can be in Europe, you can be in Asia, or you can be anywhere else in the world, your origins are in Africa, because the world used to be one before human beings interfered with the demographics and the geography of the planet. On the morning of June 16, 1976, thousands of African students went on a protest rally from their schools to Orlando Stadium in Soweto. This monumental day has been dubbed Soweto Student Uprising, and it reflects on the fierce spirit of the youth of that time. These students were protesting against an official order from the Nationalist Party government, as you might have seen from the clippings of the time, prohibiting the usage of local languages such as Zulu, Sotho, Xhosa in Bantu schools, by imposing a law that imposed Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in all public schools. This became known as Bantu Education Act of 1973. This law was to serve the interests of white supremacy and provide an inferior type of education to a black child, and the white child to receive a superior one. White children were allowed to learn maths and science, and a black child was only taught woodwork and biblical studies. Thus, the policy deepened racial inequality and racial segregation. The rally was intended to be a peaceful protest, simply to request that government not make Afrikaans compulsory in schools, as it would have dire consequences on the future of non-white students. Students gathered in their thousands with posters and placards and demonstrated peacefully in all streets of Soweto to Orlando Stadium. Chanting together in unison subconsciously brought a sense of camaraderie and unity amongst the students. Being involved in something together was better than standing alone. The mood on the day was telling that the country was going somewhere, even though you did not know where. But also, you would not have imagined that it was going towards liberation. As the crowds grew to more than 10,000 students, approximately 50 policemen stopped the students and tried to turn them back. Tear gas and warning shots were fired at the unarmed students in order to disperse them, to no avail. Policemen then fired directly into the crowd of peaceful demonstrators. Many of the protesters ran for shelter, but others refused to stand down for what they believed in and went on to pelt the officers with stones. Hell broke loose, and there was pandemonium which led to deaths and injuries. In the chaos, it was established that a 12-year-old Hector Peterson was among those that lost their lives as a result of a police officer who shot directly at him. This year marks the 41st anniversary of the tragic but heroic events of June 16, 1976. Therefore, this date remains meaningful in the South African official calendar. As we commemorate the sterling and bravery of the South African youth to preserve their rights, we also acknowledge their significant contribution towards freedom under the democratic society which we live in. This was a sad and painful moment in the history of South Africa. But fortunately, through the hard work of our freedom stalwart Oliver Tambo, we managed to grab the attention of the world in this light that our domestic and foreign policy champions human rights, non-sexist and non-racial approach. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, the emerging driver of socio-economic and political discourse in any society is the youth. the realization of a successful fourth industrial revolution and the success of the future international order lie in the hands of the youth. Let us equip the youth of the world with the necessary tools to make the world a better place to live in. The effort of AFSAM in providing valuable international perspectives to the youth in Turkey should also be appreciated. It is very important that the current youth defines their destiny and mission, but emulate the courageous youth of 1976 in South Africa. The 1976 Brigade liberated South Africa using education as a tool to mobilize society to stand up and fight for its liberation. They followed the words of Nelson Mandela when he said, I quote, "Young people must take it upon themselves to ensure that they receive the highest education possible so that they can represent us well as future leaders," end of quote. May the dreams of the youth be the reality of their future. I wish to also correct some of the misrepresentation of facts in terms of the program of today. One is that as South Africa, through our own education policy, we are building a non-racial society. We are not building a multiracial education system. So I think it's important that we draw a distinction between the two, because multiracial means perpetuation of racial designs and order. But non-racial basically means that nobody else should be discriminated or be determined in as far as their future is concerned on the basis of race. Like I said earlier on, that we belong to one race. And the second misconception that I want to also correct is that our students who are here did not come as a result of apartheid. We did not bring South African students all over the world because we were correcting the past of 1973 or 1976. We responded to the clarion call by our friends abroad, friends who basically contributed to the liberation of South Africa, that they will also contribute in making South Africa part of the global community. And secondly, they would help us to build a world citizen. So we are not rebuilding South African engineers and world engineers and scientists, because there should never be a barrier of where you are going to exercise your skill as a human being in this world. So whatever that you accumulate, whatever that you acquire as a result of the contributions of the people that are hosting you in that country. Because they are not doing us a favor. They are doing their part in contributing towards us becoming valuable citizens to the world. Because our foreign policy is premised on the understanding that we are building a prosperous South Africa that contributes to a better continent for a better world. So we are building you as world citizens. So it's important that you bear that in mind so that you don't give credit where it's not supposed to be given. The apartheid regime cannot take credit that you are here as a result of their own design. It's not about them. So it's important that when we go abroad not only to acquire a qualification, but we go abroad to acquire education. Because there is also a difference between education and qualification. Education takes you beyond their qualification. You must be able to respect other people's religions. You must be able to respect other people's cultures. You must learn how the world responds to injustices that are basically meted against other fellow human beings. Because by so doing, you will learn to appreciate the love that other human beings that are not necessarily from South Africa or Africa are able to share with you. The love, the caring, the compassion that you are not exposed to. So that they do, so that you can be able to reciprocate to future generations. You are tomorrow's leaders. And tomorrow's leaders must be equipped with issues of morality, with issues of proper values, so that you can then be able to ensure that you become leaders that are trusted, leaders that are tested, leaders that are also responsible in ensuring that they preserve the planet that we are in, they protect the environment that we are living in, they frown upon wastage of our natural resources, they protect the interests and the rights of other citizens to take their own decisions, to decide which organizations do they want to belong to decide where their children's religion should be. Because as we see today, the world is at war with itself because of intolerance. Intolerance to one's religion, intolerance to one's rights, intolerance to our responsibilities as citizens. Because we put rights forward, but we basically make responsibility secondary to rights, whereas it's supposed to be the other way around. Responsibility must come before rights. You cannot trample on other people's rights if you are a responsible citizen. But if you are an irresponsible citizen, you will always demand things to happen to you because you believe that you are the only one who is entitled to rights, but also undermine other people's right to have rights as well. So we must be able to be careful about those things. And as we are here, I believe that we are going to contribute to a world order that is at peace with itself, a world order that respects our environment, a world order that takes into account that there are universal civil liberties that must be embraced, that must be protected, that your rights in South Africa are as equally correct as the rights of a Chinese or as the rights of a Turkish or the rights of a Brazilian. So don't think that you are only the ones whose rights must be protected, but you trampling on other people's rights in the process, because that's a recipe for conflict. So once more, thanks very much for finding time to come and be part of this particular important commemoration. And as I sit down, I would not want to deprive you of the privilege of engaging on some of these pertinent issues so that we can be able to have an opportunity to learn from each other through dialogue and debate, but also looking at how do we contribute towards a human race that is developed, a human race that is responsible, a human race that appreciates that we all belong to one ancestry, we all belong to one human race. There is no need for us to harm others. There is no need for us to look upon others, as inferior or as, less important than us. We are all important. We are all the same. Irrespective of our status in society, I might be the ambassador, but I'm no different from you as a human being. So my status has got nothing to do with me being a human being. So that's, before I become an ambassador, I'm a human being. And that's what I must basically cherish and thank other people who have contributed for me to being what I am today, to have been able to be fortunate to see this light of day. Because if it was not through their contribution, I'm not talking about my parents, I'm talking about society that contributed towards my upbringing, I would not have been where I am today. So I must be able to appreciate that even if people, might be looking, might be doing jobs that I don't regard as being important, but those people make a contribution for me to be a complete human being. When I wake up, wash my teeth, the brush that I'm using, the toothpaste that I'm using, somebody woke up to go and manufacture that for me, to make it possible for me to have that particular toothbrush and toothpaste. So I must not basically look upon other human beings, with a very superior mentality and look upon them as inferior human beings, because by so doing, I'm basically propagating divisions in society, I'm propagating hatred, I'm propagating disunity in the world, and I'm propagating conflict. So the world will never be at peace as long as we have a mentality that is negative, and that mentality will also be transcended towards our children, because our children will learn from us how we treat other human beings, and they will think that that is the correct way of treating other human beings. So if we plant a seed of goodness, we must be prepared to harvest the harvest that is basically of goodness. But if we plant a seed of hatred, let us understand that life has no